Rita is a cozy, casual puzzle adventure game where the puzzles are primarily word-based puzzles like crosswords, word finds, that kind of thing. You play as this little chicklet who's inspired by my grandmother. You run around the world, you pick up newspapers, you pick up letters that helps you solve the puzzles, and then you gain abilities and the world changes, so a bit like a Metroidvania. And as the story progresses, you learn the relationship between her and myself as chickens. So you start off as Rita in an area I'm calling Aspendale, which is an actual suburb of Melbourne for those who are from the area. It's a beachside suburb. You grow up on the beach and you explore your town, and that's kind of the tutorial phase. Rita starts as a young chicklet in that area. We set the year as 1933, but it's a fake world, so it doesn't necessarily mean much. But you have old time newspapers and crosswords and things like that. And once you pass this phase, you'll move on to, and time will move forward, and you'll become sort of an older version of Rita, and then my character will be hatched in that phase. So the second phase is more about how Rita helps me, as might be the case when you're little and your grandparent helps you a lot. So that's like the second phase of the game. And then the third phase would be, we become adults and the older generation get even older, and it kind of flips and you help them. So roughly speaking, it's, young Rita, old Rita, young me, and then very old Rita and older me, and the dynamic between the characters changes, and then there'll be a fourth sort of epilogue, but I don't know, I haven't planned any of that yet. But they're the three main phases, yeah. So for instance, like in the second phase, my character will get stuck in the forest somewhere, and she has to come and rescue me, kind of thing. So little things like that, but they're all explicitly done with the puzzles. Scattered throughout the game are these little like memories that they're like side worlds that you drop into, and each one of them is like something that she taught me, but not specifically to me. They're just like things that are good life advice, like just a standard one would be like one step at a time. One that I want to put later in the game, which is a really nice quote I like, is love all, trust few, paddle your own canoe. That'll be little things like that, and it'll link in with the puzzles. Yes, I left PAX last year, and I saw the showcase and PAX Rising, and I was like quite inspired. And then I just had to sort a few things out in my life, and I've actually got some paper here. And I looked. I started November 14 last year, so Rita's almost a year old as we speak. And yeah, I was just really motivated. I've been wanting to do games for a long time. I've sort of been working less and getting myself into a position to have a real crack. And this felt like the right time, the right idea. Just improving in my game dev abilities, and time to have a shot at a big game. So a couple of years ago, I did a little game jam game, again based around the characters I mentioned, and I had this mechanic where you would pick up letters, and it was sort of a free flow board, like Scrabble, and so you would make words, and the environment would change and progress, but it was a little bit too free form. Like it was kind of hard to hard to restrict which words people would make, and you can't adapt the world for everything. So then I was like, how do I constrain this more? And crossword felt like the obvious way to do that. I used to just make games and I was purely about the puzzle or the mechanic, and I'm just realizing more that the really good games, they have a bit of everything, and so you need a bit of story and a bit of exploration. And so I just loop a bit more of my story with my grandmother into it. Everyone loves a little bit of Mario platforming, but it's very light. I wouldn't say it's a platformer, but it has some light platforming. I'm not an artist, so I have to find some asset packs that didn't just look like an asset flip, but were still very good quality. So I found them, and I've sort of just been piecing together the world as I go, getting tips from people around me who are a bit more graphically minded. But I think I'm improving. I can't create art, but I think I'm getting better at sticking it together. And the mechanic is it started with crosswords and word finds are the obvious thing, but I've been tweaking it. If you've heard of Rebus puzzle, that kind of thing. I will do some emoji kind of things to keep it a bit more modern, and there's some poems and maybe a bit of cryptic in there. Just try to keep the core mechanic, but keep it fresh to keep the player interested. Yeah, I'm surprised with how much people like the look of it. I was like, I'm really out of my depth here, like hacking things together. I was like, it's made in Godot, right? And I got like asset packs from Unity, and I'm trying to fudge them, and all the while I feel like I'm just flying by the seat of my pants, and then it comes out okay, so happy. So I'm about like 50% content done, so I need to really flesh out the other 50% as quick as possible, and then iterate, test, refine. I'm working with some composers at the moment to really like elevate the game. I think like a good music track in this kind of game can really lift the game, and then just polish and test. And make sure it's accessible to a lot of people. At PAX, I had it, WASD and mouse kind of controls, and that's good for gamers. But you get your mum and dad to try and play it, or you get a 5-year-old kid, and it's quite difficult. So I want to have controller, touchscreen, keyboard, mouse, keyboard only, all those schemes, and yeah, you can implement them, but to test them, it takes time. So that's high priority.
What is your go-to caffeinated beverage when working on the game?
Ooh, this today is a large cappuccino.